Hey there, everyone. Thanks for joining us. It's a little bit late. We had a few little technical glitches. My fault.
Yeah.
I take
No, my fault.
But anyway, John Kiriakou is over there. I'm Ted Rall, and you're watching the DeProgram show for Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. Never a dull moment. I think it's fair to say.
There's a lot to talk about.
A lot to talk about, a lot to deprogram. So maybe we should just get to it.
Well, Ted, when I woke up this morning, I dove into the Iranian news media, and all of a sudden, like flipping a switch, the Iranians are saying, holy shit, okay, we're going to talk to the Americans. Now, they had been saying for weeks they're not interested in talks. Those talks will take place Saturday morning in Muscat, the capital of Oman. The Omanis have long served as the intermediary between the U.S. and Iran. Now, Donald Trump says these talks are going to be direct. The Iranians say that they will be indirect, with the Omani foreign minister shuttling between two conference rooms. I believe the Iranians.
I believe the Iranians too. Why this setup? What is the reason to do that?
Direct face-to-face talks are going to lead people to believe that some sort of an agreement is imminent. The Iranians simply do not believe that any kind of agreement is imminent. In fact, the Iranians have made it very plain that they see Donald Trump as a bully. They will not respond to bullying, and they're just not sure how seriously to take him yet. And so I think that in these initial indirect talks, they're going to gauge how serious the American envoy is. It's going to be Steve Wyckoff. It's Steve, right?
Yeah.
Steve Wyckoff, the special envoy for the Middle East. And if Wyckoff is serious and actually brings something to the table that the Iranians believe they can work with, I could see direct face-to-face talks, either again in Oman or in Geneva, maybe Doha, probably not. But from the Iranian perspective, they want to take this one step at a time and then just see where it goes from there.
So, what do you think changed the Iranians' mind? They didn't want to talk. I mean, this is being characterized as sort of it's not really a negotiation. It's more like taking each other's temperatures to see where people are at and see if we can, on this show, we always have animals, but to sort of see, where everybody's at in terms of, how serious people are. I guess the Americans also have to assess that about their Iranian counterparts as well.
Yes.
What is the point of the separate rooms, though? I mean, you're next door at a conference center or a hotel, or a government ministry. Why not just meet?
In my second divorce, my ex and I were in the same office. We were in two separate conference rooms, and the mediator shuttled between the two conference rooms. That way you can come up with some sort of a preliminary agreement without getting on each other's nerves, without losing your temper, without things getting emotional. It's strictly business, and it tends to work. One of the things that I actually had forgotten that I was reminded of this morning was that in all the talks over the course of 4 years between the Biden administration and the Iranian government, all of those talks were indirect. They were never face-to-face. So what the Iranian press is saying today is that the Iranians have been enriching uranium, but not to weapons grade level. They want some sort of assurance that sanctions will be lifted, even if gradually. From the Americans' perspective, they want assurances that the Iranians are not going to enrich uranium to weapons grade level, which they had under the JCPOA. That's what the Iranians had already agreed to. And then we go from there. Now, it was interesting. Two things were interesting to me. The Iranians also announced that the foreign minister is meeting in Moscow today with the Russian foreign minister and the Chinese foreign minister. And it's about these Saturday meetings with the Americans. So that tells me that the Iranians are taking this very, very seriously. And another thing that was interesting to me Chayan, which is a hardline newspaper in Tehran, wrote an article saying, what Donald Trump doesn't need is talks. What Donald Trump needs is 3 bullets to his empty skull.
Whoa.
And Ayatollah Khamenei said, you cut that out right now. And then they retracted it, saying, oh, it was just a poor attempt at satire.
Our bad.
Yeah.
Trying to be Charlie Hebdo. I mean,
take it very seriously.
Oh, I should certainly think. I mean, so for the Iranians, is this, are they being motivated by fear of being bombed, or by the sense that there might be an opportunity here to finally have, maybe not direct, but more serious talks? Because up until now, there's been a bipartisan approach to countries like Iran to say that talks are like a reward for bad behavior.
Right.
Trump doesn't really seem to have that approach.
No,
which is to his credit.
Either. Yes, to his credit.
And so
I got to blow my own horn here too. Well, and your horn, because you agreed with me. Weeks ago, I said, remember the phrase from the 70s that only Nixon could go to China. And I said, perhaps only Trump can go to Tehran.
It would be a big win for him.
He's obsessed with winning the Nobel Peace Prize. And this might do it if this were to lead to something substantive.
Well, it would be certainly more deserving than Obama's. Would this be, could we see a path toward normalization at some point? I know that's like that's the Hail Mary pass, but this crap has been going on for, the better part of half a century. And at a certain point, it's already been ridiculous for a long time.
Yes. Diplomatic relations were severed in 1979. We've never come close to normalization ever since 1979. The JCPOA was a good step forward, but there were no targets that would have led to diplomatic normalization. The only reason why I'm going to still say no as an answer to that question is Donald Trump can't run for re-election. Ignore what he's been saying. He cannot run for re-election.
Right.
And I don't think 3.5 years is enough time for normalization.
Why not? What would be involved? It seems like I'm naive. I'm like, couldn't you just flip a switch and say, send your ambassador. I'll send my ambassador.
Yeah.
Have your people talk to my people.
Sure. You and I could, definitely. But why didn't Joe Biden do it in Havana in the 4 years that he was president? You get wrapped around the axle on these smaller issues, these details, and you don't see the bigger picture, and you end up not accomplishing anything. If you or I were president, I would say absolutely that we would set a target of, say, a year from now, and we would try to push these talks forward and have them result in a resumption of diplomatic relations. Even if you end up with an embassy like we used to have in Damascus that had 4 people in it, right? You have an ambassador and a deputy chief of mission. You've got a consular officer, and you got somebody that does everything else. So even that would be a victory. The thing is I think that the speed bump here is going to be the Democrats, not the Republicans.
Agreed.
The Republicans are going to do whatever Donald Trump tells them to do.
Well, the Iranians it's always driven me a little insane. They've always been characterized and portrayed in the American media as dying to develop a nuclear weapons program. Mm-hmm. But, when they overthrew the Shah, they inherited the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty obligations.
And they've never dropped out of it.
They could have. They could have said, "Hey, that was the Shah's regime. We're new. We don't have. I know it is customary. At least it used to be customary, even after a revolution, to honor treaty obligations, which is interesting.
You don't want to bite off more than you can chew at the very beginning,
right? But the point is that this is they don't behave like a country who's interested in becoming a nuclear power in that respect.
I would add that twice the CIA has declassified special national intelligence estimates, SNEs, on the Iranian nuclear program, concluding both times, once under George W. Bush, once under Barack Obama, concluding both times that the Iranians are not seeking a nuclear weapon.
So why are the American people being told the opposite by both political parties and media, from CNN to MSNBC to Fox News?
Well, honestly, I think American policy on Iran is written in Jerusalem. It's Benjamin Netanyahu that dictates what U.S. policy toward Iran is going to be.
I would have, okay, so now I get into follow the Benjamins. If we had to choose between an alliance or friendly relations with Iran versus Israel, aren't the Iranians more valuable to us?
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God. Can you imagine how much less money we would have to spend on national defense if we were at peace with Iran?
And Iran is a major oil producing state. It is it has control over the strategic geopolitical importance of its location. It borders a lot of important countries. It is the pivotal country it's the biggest country in the Middle East. I mean, by far. It's the big Shia country. I mean, it's kind of like if you're playing Risk, you want Iran.
You want Iran. Let me ask you a question. Do you think the fact that Iran has entered BRICS had anything to do with the White House decision?
It must have been a contributing factor. I mean,
So
certainly we did know that there has been an appetite from the first administration. You could tell that Trump kind of wanted to talk to Iran, but it was almost felt like one of those things that fell by the wayside while he got distracted by other things. I mean, he's a very ADHD president.
Yeah.
And maybe a little bit less so now, or at least more to the point, his team is less so now. But I worry, I kind of feel like Iran was always sort of like a second tier project for him. Like, I'd like to get this done, but I don't really want to spend a lot of work on it because what's your take?
I could see that. The thing is, look at it this way too. Every single president through American history who is in his second term becomes obsessed with his historical legacy. So what is Donald Trump's legacy going to be? I think he wants it to be that he secured the border, right? It's going to be that he stood up to China and to other countries vis-a-vis trade. But he really wants to be the peace president. We saw that in his outreach to the North Koreans. And I think we're seeing the very beginning of it now with this outreach to the Iranians. It was just a couple of days ago, Friday, I think it was, that he talked about bombing Iran back into the Stone Age. Well, this is exactly what he did with the North Koreans.
Right.
It was threat, 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 and then it was the love letters and nothing in between.
And we've seen a little bit of that with Russia, too.
We have indeed.
What's going on with Russia? We haven't really heard much about the Russo-Ukrainian conflict.
What I've heard here in D.C. is that Trump is disappointed in Putin. That Trump believes he went out on a limb to essentially bully Zelensky and the Ukrainians into accepting his tenets for a ceasefire. Zelensky accepted the ceasefire. The Russians did not and continued to bomb Ukraine. In fact, just day before yesterday, 18 children were killed when the Russians bombed a playground outside of Kiev. And I think that Trump sees this as his reputation being sullied, that he went out on a limb. He's been accused of being pro-Russian and pro-Putin. He went out on a limb, putting his reputation out there to force the two sides into at least negotiating for a deal. And he got the middle finger from Putin.
So is that a misunderstanding? Is that like maybe Trump a misunderstanding if we look at it from the outside?
I think it is. I think Trump has a problem with oversimplifying these very complex issues, like the Middle East peace process, for example. And I think that he really believed that if he if he forced the Ukrainians to agree to go to the table, the Russians would just fall right into place. After all, the Russians are having such a tough time replacing soldiers on the battlefield that they've had to rely on the North Koreans. And we learned today, the Ukrainians have begun capturing Chinese soldiers on the battlefield. Trump thought that the Russians would run to the negotiating table, and they haven't.
Well, I mean, is that because the Russians don't really think they're losing, or the Russians think they're winning, or maybe the Russians just think we can hold fast, we can hold tight?
I think that the Russians think that no matter how hard this is or how hard this gets, they can outlast the Ukrainians. They're far bigger. They have an enormous population. They're a nuclear power. They have the support of the Chinese. I think the Russians think that they can just outlast the Ukrainians.
It's a triumph of will thing, right? I mean, I'm sure they're saying, look, we defeated the Nazis. This is nothing.
Exactly right.
28 million people.
Exactly.
You want to talk to us about population loss?
That's
losing
right.
men?
Please.
They're like, whatever.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, I mean, I wonder if anybody's in the White House is going to explain the Russian perspective to Trump. Is there anyone there who is like a Russia hand, who knows Russia really well?
No, it's my understanding all those people have been either forced out or sent back to their home agencies.
So that's part of the problem. There's no one there to sort of hold Trump's hand and say, listen.
Yes.
I mean, because Trump's not wrong. He did take a risk.
No, Trump's not wrong. He took
a
big risk.
He spent some political capital.
Yep. Let me answer your question from a moment ago a little more deeply. The National Security Council is made up solely, with the exception of the director and the two deputy directors, it's made up solely of rotatees, people on rotation from the CIA, the State Department, and the Pentagon. Pentagon including DIA. So you do a year or two on the National Security Council, and you go back to your home agency. When I was at the CIA, everybody wanted to go to the National Security Council because you get promoted while you're there, and you come back as a GS-15, and that's a big promotion. Well, with Trump, it's been different. Anybody who served under Joe Biden, fired, out. Some of them have been fired. Some of them have been just sent back to their home agencies where they go into, because this is off cycle now. The cycle is in the summertime. You go back to, jobs where you just sit and twiddle your thumbs for the next several months until the summer job cycle. So I don't think he's getting deep, informed advice on Russian expectations and Russian negotiating strategies.
That's okay. So I guess right now maybe he's thinking I can get a win in Iran.
And he can. I think he can. I'm actually excited about this. I've said this, God, from the very beginning of my career, there is no downside to diplomacy. None.
Never.
No. I've said in the past, we used to make fun of the George W. Bush State Department because we used to say at the CIA that we had never seen diplomats work so hard to not speak to our enemies.
Yeah, I think it's insane, but I do hope that if nothing else keeps from the Trump administration, that this keeps. John, let's talk a little bit about tariffs. Looks like we've been talking about tariffs. So the markets seem to have settled down a little bit.
Yes,
it's been a rough 4 business days. A lot of market capitalization, about 13-14% of the market has been lost in market value has been lost since last Wednesday. I guess you could say it was kind of like a steady crash over the course of several days. Now there's profit taking, there's opportunities, there's people are sort of calming down. Is this a situation where we're hearing that a lot of countries are coming to the table. There's going to be negotiations with a lot of countries, 50 out of 60, according to the White House. Is this going to be a situation where we look back in a couple of weeks or a month when all the negotiations are over and most, if not all of these tariffs will have been rolled back, and the market will maybe even go back up to 42,000, and it'll be like ServPro, like it never even happened?
Well, I'm sure you saw that it was the tariffs were at the top of the agenda in Trump's meeting yesterday with Benjamin Netanyahu. They're
34% tariffs against Israel.
I was shocked by that.
Me too.
The British say that they're already in negotiations with the U.S., as are the Canadians. There's this pause on tariffs with the Canadians. I think for most of the countries on which we put tariffs, and don't miss the article in the Washington Post yesterday about Lesotho.
That's awesome. Also, the New York Times article about the economist whose research had been relied upon. They said nobody talked to him, and that basically Trump's tariffs were about 4 times bigger than he would have recommended.
Oh my God! But I think Trump is underestimating the Chinese. The Chinese have such a hold over us. They're one of the largest owners of U.S. government bonds.
Right.
They export more than 3 times to the United States what they import from the United States, and I think that they're in a very, very strong position.
Although when you owe someone money, the question is who's beholden to whom? I mean, they want to get paid back too, right?
They do. They want to get paid back too. But if the point is to cripple the Chinese economy, it's going to cripple the U.S. economy at the same time. All the Chinese have to do is start selling bonds, and then we're screwed. Right. So I think for most of these countries, it's going to be a quick return to normalcy. With China, it's going to be different. This is going to be a slog.
So, I mean, it does seem like these are two, reading the description in the Times today about where President Xi is at and how he built, he built a reputation, they said, as a strong man who doesn't take any shit from anyone and who's trying to make China great again. I'm like, who does that remind me of?
Yeah. And
so obviously when you have two guys coming at each other with the same agenda or analogous agendas, and they're, at loggerheads, and nothing good's going to come out of it. They're both pig-headed.
Right. Yes, they are. They're both pig-headed.
So, yeah, and it is. I mean, these two economies are so intertwined. Both of them have some fundamental problems, I would say, that are.
Yeah, they do have fundamental problems, and tariffs do nothing to address the issues of, let's say, as an example, intellectual property theft. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal, I don't know, 6-8 months ago about golf clubs, right? We make the best golf clubs in the world. Well, the Chinese are copying them. And the only way to tell if this golf club is a Chinese copy is that you have to saw it in half and look at the inside. This is how good they are. They're also half the price. That's
the other way to tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're like fake Rolexes. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the thing too. We don't have shared like values in that way, right? Like where IP is valuable here.
Right.
Although that's being destroyed now here with AI. Like one little tiny story here. I'm one of my, I'm a journalist, so of course I'm losing clients all the time because as journalism dies. And one of my clients is a newsletter called Center Clip. Counterpoint. Their Center Clip is still going. Sorry, but Counterpoint is it's a left versus right editorial cartoonist site. They just announced that they're shutting down. They said, but we've been approached by AI people to ask if we're willing to let AI train on our work. And so, of course, this is like, there's the question now, do you want to let do you want Skynet to train on you before they put you out of business and kill you? And, that's looking more like with AI scooping everything up and training on it, AI here is also not, it's kind of, its value is being diluted. It doesn't have to be this way. They could have taken a completely different approach. They could have said AI is going to be like a tool that we're going to license and sell to people, including creatives, and then they still own the rights to their own stuff. But that's not the approach that they're taking so far.
Yeah. And that's scary too. AI is sucking up everything that's out there, every book, every article. And then
do you remember Google Books when they launched that?
They tried to. They're not paying anybody for anything.
Right. Their plan was to scan every single book in writing in all known languages in the world. And they were like, and somehow that was supposed to be okay.
Yeah.
They got they got a few like wimpy lawsuits by the Writers Guild or the Authors Guild.
Yeah.
And and so they were like, okay, we'll back off. Every now and then I get a check for like $6 from Google as a result. I mean,
my God,
it's so stupid.
I got my first royalty check recently. I got 2 of them. One was for like $1.46, and the other was for 84 cents.
Probably the value of the paper and the issuing of the check cost more than the amount that
there's no money in writing.
No,
unfortunately.
No, there really isn't. You got to get the advance. There's no other way. John, I'm very upset and obsessed with, and I really hope we can dig into this case before Justice John Roberts at the U.S. Supreme Court. The migrant who was, by all accounts, according to the administration, was accidentally deported to the Salvadorean private prison, who by all accounts should not have been, is not accused of having committed any crimes during the 10 years that he lived here, or in any other country for that matter. Everybody admits he shouldn't be there. Nevertheless, instead of, a federal court said, send him back by 12 midnight Monday. Then the appellate division, 3-judge panel, in very strongly worded opinion, concurred with the federal judge and said, yeah, you got to send him back. This is outrageous. And now Trump has appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court, and I'm not really sure. I can guess what this is about, but I'm not really sure why the Trumpies didn't just say, okay, let's reach out to the Salvadorians and bring them back.
Done.
I mean, obviously they could.
Yeah, they say they can't find him.
Yeah, but that's not possible.
Not possible.
It's just not true, right? I mean, I read the filings. The government doesn't assert that that they need more time or that they're even trying. There's no statement that says, hey, we called the Salvadorians, but they didn't pick up, it was the weekend, Catholic country. I mean, they don't have any excuse. There's just literally like, the court is trying to interfere with foreign relations and they're interfering with diplomacy, and that's an executive branch prerogative. The judiciary should have nothing to do with it. It seems to me like it's too cute by half, but what really concerns me even more than the fate of this poor guy, who could be being murdered right this second while we're talking, is the fact that now, if the government's argument prevails in the full, and the court votes in accordance with Trump, logically, any human being in the United States could be subjected to this treatment, right? Like including
absolutely
a U.S. citizen, right? They could literally just say, it's literally like, we just grab you, we, ununiformed goons swoop you up into a rental van, drag you off to a detention center, kick you out to insert name of shithole country here, and then you're gone. And then if and when you ever surface and you call your wife or whatever and you say, hey honey, I'm in Honduras in a shithole jail, literally it's like, well, you can't avail yourself to the courts. So it's like, if there's no habeas, if there's no constitutional rights, if your citizenship doesn't protect you, if you have no access to the courts, and that's true about everyone, well, we're officially in something like fascism, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are. If your government, if your own government can just throw you out like that, and you have no legal recourse to stop it or to protect yourself in the process, yeah, that's fascism.
So,
yeah.
I mean, two-part question, John. I mean, so first of all, why did Justice Roberts? I understand why the court needs time to consider this.
Sure.
The import.
But why not a temporary injunction?
Yeah, order the die to be returned pending, while the clerks get busy and research.
Exactly right. Like you said, it would just take a phone call to the Ecuadorians saying, "Find the guy, bring him to the embassy. We're going to put him on a plane."
And the Salvadorians would be fine with it. They would say, "Okay, no worries."
Yeah, not a problem.
And I wonder if the tipping point that might tip the Supreme Court into doing the right thing is the fact that, like, the president of El Salvador and people in the administration were making fun of the courts on social media. Like, oops, too late, with like emojis and stuff like that. Shalom and stuff like that. Those things, I mean, I've got to think Roberts pays attention to the dignity of the court and the respect or lack thereof that it's receiving. He really cares about that more than anything else. If he rules in favor of the administration, he's going to obviously look as well. It's going to look as though he's enabled fascism, but also he's going to look like a wuss, right? He's going to look like he got rolled. I mean,
I think so too.
So how's this going to go with the six conservative justices who make up the majority on the court?
I fear for the way the court's going because they refused a temporary injunction.
Yes.
And if this poor guy who's innocent of any crime has to just stay in this super prison in El Salvador indefinitely, that's not the American way. No. So like you, I would have immediately instituted an injunction. I would have returned him immediately and then give the court as much time as it needs to rule on the merits of the law. They haven't done that. And this poor guy is stuck there. I don't understand why.
Why do you think they haven't done that? Do they just not give a shit?
No, maybe Roberts doesn't think he has the votes. Yeah.
Because he did this by himself. He agreed.
Yes.
And apparently, I guess, as far as by Supreme Court standards, they're moving quickly, right? We're expecting a ruling within a few days.
Rather than to have to wait until June.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, these are grave constitutional issues. I mean,
I think so too.
I mean, I would just think that, the consequences would just be, the implications are just staggering.
Yes.
I mean, it's no longer the United States anymore.
It's like there are no protections. You can just be swept up and thrown out. Yeah, disappeared. You can be disappeared. And
then I guess, okay, well, we have to go there. Is that something that's likely to start happening more if the court rules in Trump's favor?
Well,
I would say yes.
Barack Obama is the one who initially allowed it by signing into law the National Defense Authorization Act of 2014. It hasn't been done that we know of until now.
Well, the Attorney General under Obama asserted the right to
kill Americans
on American soil
with no trial,
extrajudicially. But of course, we wouldn't do that. But we can legally
take our word for it.
Right. The Supreme Court historically has always been extremely solicitous of executive power. It's always kind of felt that part of its job is to stand out of the way and let the executive branch run the government, basically, and not to interfere.
Yeah.
But Justice Roberts, he's an intelligent man. He knows he's thinking about the very issues we're talking about here. He's got to know that this claim changes the complexion of the balance of powers irreparably. I mean, this goes beyond even the internment of the Japanese Americans in World War II, because it could apply to anyone.
Yeah, that's right. And have we learned no lessons from history?
Well, apparently not,
No,
right?
Apparently not.
I mean, the Korematsu decision, right? Which we always, that's case law. Bush relies upon it. Bush relied upon it.
Yes.
Trump relies upon it.
Mm-hmm. That was a writ of coram nobis, is what it's called. I once mentioned a writ of coram nobis to a circuit court judge. Stop me if I said this last week, but
you didn't.
We were at a party, and she told me, "Oh, I'm a judge on the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals." I said, "Oh, how interesting." The conversation got around to a writ of coram nobis, and she said, "A writ of coram nobis. I haven't even heard that term since I was in law school." And I said, "Well, the Korematsu decision." She said, Right, of course. Well, now it's part of the public dialogue. We need to be aware of these things, because we're having to rely on them now to protect the rights of Americans.
So
kind of crazy.
I'm terrified of this. And I guess the question is, will they use this against U.S. citizens? Will they? And, why not, right?
Why not? They did it with Hamdan.
Right. Yeah.
He got no relief. He was a bad guy, but being held permanently in a Navy brig without ever being charged with a crime? Come on now. What is that?
Right. True. Wasn't he a dual national, though?
Yeah, U.S. and Saudi.
Yeah, see, that's a little fuzzier. I just wonder if they can do it to some,
quote
unquote, you and me, like normal people, who, white people.
Hey, there was something I wanted to bring up with you, and I will apologize in advance if I'm springing this on you, but I've had a couple of questions about, actually, you know what? I'm going to find it so I can pull it up. I've had a couple of questions about this cell phone. It's an encrypted cell phone called Unplugged. It's being marketed by Eric Prince, the founder of Blackwater, and there are advertisements for it a lot on the Tucker Carlson show. You can find it at unplugged.com. Now, what this is a normal cell phone. It uses all the usual, T-Mobile and AT&T and Verizon, what have you. But if you're traveling and you get stopped in an airport or at a border and they say, "We want to see your cell phone," you hit one button and it just zaps the whole thing. So it's as good as trying to get information out of an empty shoebox.
Ooh, I like that.
I do too. And they go for about $900 or $1,000.
And it's a smartphone?
Yeah, it's a smartphone.
Huh. So it's an Android, I assume.
Yeah, it's an Android. Should I splurge on this thing?
That's a good question. I mean, look,
I don't know anybody who's got one.
So here's the thing. Yeah, I don't have one either. I mean, for someone who travels a lot and who has cause for concern, which I would say you are one of those people. I'm one of those people.
Yeah, I get stopped all the time.
Yeah, I've been stopped more than my fair share. You probably more than me, but still, it's happened. Yeah. And I mean, like if I went to Israel, do I need any shit from those Mossad guys at the Jerusalem airport? Like, not really. So, or Tel Aviv, I should say. So, I mean, the thing is, they can't. If your phone is powered down, and it's password protected, it won't. They can't get anything out of it unless you put in the password.
They can force you now. 2 different federal circuits have ruled that they can force you to open it up for them. If you refuse, they'll take it, and they won't give it back to you.
All right, so take it. All right.
Yeah, you have the insurance on it. They'll just send you a refurbished one.
Yeah, I'll just say it was stolen, which would be true.
Which it was.
Right. I think that's the way to go, right? I mean, just all right, take it. I had a friend, speaking of Israel, he Jewish, had worked on a kibbutz. Leaving Tel Aviv airport, he was traveling alone. They subjected him to a body cavity search, and he was like tried to refuse, and he said, well, and they were like, well, you can always call the U.S. embassy, but you'll miss your flight. So he decided to submit, and so he wouldn't miss his flight. And I'm like, holy shit, I would have missed the flight. I would have been like, it's not that big a deal. Yeah. Because you and I both know, right? Like when you're detained, like of course you're upset and it's a scary experience. But the truth is, like what no one talks about is the guys who are detaining you, you're kind of an inconvenience to them too. They kind of want to process you, get what they want to get, and be done with you.
Yeah. They want you just submit and go.
Yeah. So if you refuse, that's a complication for them.
Mm-hmm. It is.
So
it is. Yes.
I mean,
I mentioned I was in. I've been to Iceland like every month for the last 6 months, and I just got back a few days ago. But my last trip a month ago, I was strip searched by the Iceland border people.
Wow.
When I was trying to leave the country, strip searched to my underwear. And then they took this swab and swabbed my belly right at the top of my underwear, my hands top and bottom, and my feet top and bottom.
Looking for
bomb residue.
Bomb-making residue, yeah.
And they kept asking me questions. And I kept saying, I'm represented by counsel and I don't talk to cops. And then they would ask another question. And I'd say, I'm represented by counsel and I don't talk to cops. I said that 6 times. And then finally they told me, just put on your clothes and get the fuck out of here. So I did. I have no idea what that was about and why it happened on the Iceland side of the trip.
Yeah. Is it ever possible that they would be doing that at the behest of the United States?
Absolutely. And the reason why I was in Iceland is I'm the spokesman for a tech startup that was founded by 5 former members of the WikiLeaks leadership. So I'm sure that's what it was about.
America's
like
favorite people.
5 WikiLeaks people and a CIA guy. Like, what are we up to? And then I just kept saying, I'm represented by counsel and I don't talk to cops. So they got nothing out of me.
Yeah, no, I think you just don't cooperate.
No, don't cooperate with the cops. Yes, it should be a mantra.
Anything. Yeah, I mean, people really, to quote The Clash, know your rights. People don't.
No, they don't.
And it's hard because you're like, well, I just want to go, and they play on that.
Back in 2020, a person to whom I used to be very close filed a charge against me, and the cops raided my house. Not just the cops, but 22 police and FBI agents raided my house. They did all kinds of damage. And my mantra was, I'm represented by counsel and I don't talk to cops. So when it came time for my trial, because I refused to take a plea, came time for my trial, I said to my lawyer, you know what? We never received any discovery from them. And he said, what discovery? And I said, any discovery. He said, what did you say to the cops? I said, I told them I'm represented by counsel and I don't talk to cops. He said, exactly. There is no discovery. You didn't say anything. And the charges ended up being thrown out. So that's what you do. Don't talk to cops.
No matter what. And if they come to if ICE comes to your door, you don't have to open it.
That's right.
If they slide a judge's warrant under your door, you do have to open it.
Yes, then you do. But if they don't have a warrant, like they'll say, can you come on out here real quick? They always use the words real quick. Come on out here real quick, just so we can have a conversation. No.
Right.
No, I won't.
Not at all. I respectfully decline.
That's right.
Same thing with when they pull you over.
That is exactly right.
Hey, do you mind if I take a look in your trunk?
I do mind.
I mind, and the answer is no.
Yeah, I do mind very much. You can't go in my trunk.
Yeah. You don't.
Yeah, here's another thing. You have any ID?
It's like, no.
You can only ask for my ID if you believe I have committed a crime, I am in the process of committing a crime, or I am planning the commission of a crime. So no, I'm not giving you my ID.
Yeah, in other countries, that's not true.
Right.
Like in France, you're obligated to carry ID with you when you leave
In most
your house.
European countries, yes, you have to turn it over. Not here. Now, there are several states, almost exclusively in the Deep South, where they are stop and ID states. But for most of the country, no, sir. You don't have any need to see my ID. With all due respect.
With all due respect, indeed. Oh my God. Yeah, no, I can't believe that we're in this state where when we travel, we have to worry about that. And part of the, this also makes me nervous is when you re-enter the United States, they want you to use your phone, right, through global entry or whatever to scan. So then the opportunity is your phone's open.
Mobile customs, MC something. I forget what it's called. Yeah, right. Your phone's open. That's how you get.
Maybe it's better to just wait in that line and use old-fashioned dead tree paper passport.
That's right.
For someone like you and me.
Exactly right.
These days, I think.
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely.
How much worse is it going to get?
I think it's going to get significantly worse. I really do. As the administration realizes that they're not going to get pushback from the courts, I think they're going to keep pushing the
from the streets,
or from the streets, or from Capitol Hill.
We can argue that or the press. We can or certainly the big law firms or the universities. So Saturday there were these major protests around the country. 1 million people, maybe up to 1 million people. 50 states, big cities. They were big marches organized by sort of Democrat aligned groups like Move On.
Right.
People always forget how, what the move on is for, moving on past the Clinton impeachment.
Yes.
On the one hand, I think it's always good when Americans get mad and go out into the street and express themselves. But on the other hand, it's not a sustained thing, right? It's like go out on a Saturday and then back to brunch and that's it. It doesn't seem like that's not something that's going to make Trump and his goons quake in their boots.
No, I agree with you. Paul J., who used to do Reality Asserts Itself. It was quite a popular YouTube podcast. He asked me once what the impact was inside the CIA of what at the time were the largest demonstrations ever recorded in human history on the eve of the invasion of Iraq. And I said, truthfully, I don't know what you're talking about. And he said, okay, take a look at this footage. And he showed me clips from, New York, Washington, London, Paris, Berlin, all over the world, millions and millions of people in the streets. I said, I wasn't even aware that these took place. And he said, so you're telling me there was no impact inside the CIA? And I said, no. The CIA did not want to invade Iraq. That's been well documented.
Right.
It was, Dick Cheney and George W. Bush and Donald Rumsfeld. But I said, if you're at the CIA, once you get the order, you do as you're told.
Mm-hmm.
And we did as we were told. There was no impact of global demonstrations inside the CIA.
No, I
think we're seeing that again now.
I think it would be different if those if the protests were sustained, if they were bigger, if
that
they were
would
more
be different,
disruptive.
like during the Vietnam War era. Yes. Remember the post October 7th demonstrations. I remember Brian Becker organizing the one here in DC, and on his application to the Department of Interior, he said that he expected 15,000 to 20,000 demonstrators, and 300,000 people showed up. The crowd went all the way from the White House to the Capitol building, and then it went away. And look what's happened in Gaza ever since.
Yeah, if that were every day, 7 days a week, Tahrir Square.
That's what we need. Tahrir Square every day. Yes.
Yeah, but we can't. And the last time we had anything that came close to that was Black Lives Matter. I ran into a guy. I was parking my car near a BLM protest, and the guy, I think I may have told you this, comes up to me and he's like, "Yeah, I'm only here because there's no games, because it was during the pandemic. I'd be at the Yankees now if it wasn't for but this is the only thing going on. The movie theaters are closed." He was laughing about it. But he was right.
Yeah, he's right. Yeah, Americans have short attention spans.
Yeah,
they just want to move on.
Yeah. So we'll keep watching here. We'll keep deprogramming.
Indeed.
And yes. Oh, by the way, Michelle Whitty, we should say, is off this week. Unfortunately, she's had to get into the land of proper, suitable employment, sadly, and that's interfering. Her day job's getting in the way of the more important work that we do here. But
talking about the issues. Yeah.
But hopefully I'm sure she'll be back soon, next week. So we'll keep you posted on that.
That's right.
All right, John. Thanks you so
Ted.
much. All right.
Good to see you, and thanks to our viewers.
Thank you so much.